very excited to talk to you about The Young Vote that you directed. And before we get into that, here at Bionic Buzz, we're all about people's passion. Where your passion to be like a filmmaker kind of come from? Was a certain movie or documentary inspired it, or something that was just naturally for you as a child?
Oh gosh, well, I grew up always loving film. I'm a Jamaican, so I had a lot of storytellers around me as a kid. And, I grew up in Brooklyn, so I was a big admirer of Spike Lee's, and I got to know Darren Aronofsky when I was teaching actually in Compton in the mid-90s. And, he's an inspiration, of course, just as a filmmaker. But it wasn't really until I graduated from Harvard, I'd gotten my doctorate in system change after working in education for 20 years, that I thought about becoming a filmmaker. I had worked with and known filmmakers through most of my adult life, but I'd never really thought of it as a platform for social change. So I became really interested in some of the research that exists on how film and television can inspire behavior change and,
Absolutely.
Get people to think differently about a lot of our social problems.
Mm-hmm. Well, I assume that's what you really tackle in The Young Vote, and especially everything, these new laws about, trying to impress, mail-in ballots and stuff like that,
Yeah, a huge part of the reason why I made this film is because I've worked with young people my whole life. I taught straight out of college through Teach for America. So I was teaching young people when I was 23. And then I started working for Teach for America a few years later. And then I started recruiting other 22, 23-year-olds to go and teach in inner city communities like the one I'd grown up in Brooklyn, and where I taught. I spent about 25 years working with young people, recruiting them to be teachers, principals, all over the country. And then eventually I was doing it globally. And I just didn't buy into this narrative that young people don't care and that they just don't show up in our elections. Mm-hmm. And you can't count on them, because I had spent decades working with them doing some of the toughest work in America. So to me, I wanted to understand, why weren't young people voting in higher numbers? And like most of our social problems, it's super complicated. Our system was never really designed for everyone to fully participate in it as citizens. Just a few decades ago, I didn't have the right to vote as an African-American woman in this country. And I mean, if you think about it that way, right? Like the voting rights
it's shocking.
In 1965, I was born in 1971. So it wasn't that long ago that this country really became a democracy for all of us. So, what I did with the film was I found 5 young people between the ages of 16 to 27, 4 different states. One of them moved during the film. And I followed them through the 2020 election, to see if they would vote. A few of them were organizers themselves and activists. So I got a lot of insight into what was going on in our country in 2020, which, we were living through a pandemic, huge social unrest, dealing with, so many of our issues of racial inequity. So I got some really good insight through their eyes of why they're not voting in higher numbers.
Oh, I love that. Well, I was actually getting to the next question. I mean, what was the challenges shooting during the pandemic? I mean, obviously you probably had to wear your mask, and traveling must have been a pain,
Yeah, well, I live in Florida also, so nobody wanted.
Where in Florida? Because I live in Florida too.
Oh, you do? I'm in Miami.
Or Orlando, so.
Okay, you're not. There's a young man in our film who is based in Orlando.
Oh, cool.
Who we eventually got up there to shoot. It was really hard. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure most filmmakers are saying that. This is my first film, right? So I've never made a film before in my life. Mm-hmm. And, I luckily had some people who were mentoring me and coaching me through this process who had made films before. And, I adapted much the way that most filmmakers adapted through doing protocols for COVID safe shoots. So I did a lot of shoots actually virtually. I hired local crews and they all got tested, and the people we were shooting got tested, and I would film on Zoom while they were in person with the crews. So it was more complicated. Later on in 2020, I started testing, so I could travel. And so I was able to join the shoots towards the end of our production. Actually, I joined the very last shoot, which was on January 6th, the morning of January 6th in Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was,
Were you in DC then, or was it somewhere else?
I was in Georgia. I was there following one of the young people in our film who, she had moved there to help with the Senate runoffs, the campaigns for both Warnock and Ossoff. And we filmed her through the morning of January 6th. And it was a very celebratory morning because Ossoff and Warnock had won. And I left Georgia, got on the road. And by the afternoon, it was a completely different story. The insurrection had happened. That was really, I'll never forget that day, actually.
Oh, me either. I mean, how can you not? I mean, it's still sad that, Trump never got any punishment for that. But
it's not over yet, we hope. I mean,
exactly. So fingers crossed,
It's, it was a sad day, but I think I left the film and what happened on January 6th feeling even more hopeful. I mean, clearly feeling frightened about how close it came for us in terms of our democracy. But at the same time, just feeling so confident that, with the involvement of the young people, like the ones I follow in this film, it was amazing to see the turnout, right? And to not just for Georgia, but in the election. And I think that is part of what is going on in our country right now, right? This was the largest turnout we've ever had of voters in the history of the United States, right? And I think this is what's happening in our country is more and more people are engaging, right? And the power structure that we're used to is changing, right? Because the demographics of the country is changing. And I think there's some people who are just not open to that and to sharing power, right? The young people I follow, I think they are the future of America.
Oh, absolutely.
They're Black, they're brown, they're biracial, they're white, they're Puerto Rican, you know what I mean? Like they are America and the future of America.
That's America right there.
Exactly. And, some people are excited about those changes and some people unfortunately aren't. And they're willing to go to the extremes of violence to, maintain their power. But I don't think they're going to be able to stop these young people.
No, they won't.
Cool.
I'd like to get through everyone you've talked to about in this, because you said you had someone from Georgia, someone from Orlando. Where else? You said you had, 5 young people total?
Yes, there's actually 5 young people, 2 in Florida, a young man who's Puerto Rican and based in Orlando is finishing. He was actually a junior when we started following him, and he's about to graduate from high school now. We have another young lady she's a military kid, and she's based in Cooper City, which is the same community as the Parkland School District. So she and the young man in Orlando actually were working together on an initiative for open primaries, and you'll learn more about that in the film. And then I followed a young lady who is she was based out of Los Angeles and ended up moving to Georgia, and you'll find out more about that and why she made that shift.
Okay.
And we follow
I just moved from the Los Angeles area to here, so.
Yeah, a lot of people are moving to Florida. And we followed a young DACA immigrant, Liz, who's based out of Dallas. She was organizing first-time Latino voters. And then Ariana, we followed, young African-American woman who is 19 at the time, and she had not voted before. So it was her first time voting.
That's awesome. So
Yeah,
I
it was
guess
a
what's
really
the main
great
goal of the Young Vote? I assume it's to inspire others to go out there and vote, and also kind of, document this kind of very historical year too.
That's absolutely right. I mean, when I set out to make the film, like I said, I really wanted to understand why weren't young people voting in higher numbers and what was preventing them from becoming civically engaged in our country and in our democracy. So, it's a story through their eyes of what they think about voting, what they think about participating in our democracy. And they all sort of come at it in different ways. So the film really, for me, it's speaking to young people in that age group. I wanted them to be the ones to tell the story. So I just documented what they did. And I hope it inspires other young people to get involved and vote.
Absolutely.
But also do more than that, because, as one of the young people in the film says, it's not just about voting. Voting is a part of being civically engaged. But, we have to hold our elected officials accountable to what they promised us they're going to do. We have to get involved in state and local elections because they're as important as presidential elections. And, we have to stay involved in our communities. It's pretty much a full-time job these days to be a citizen in America. So I'm hoping this film will be also used. We're setting up a website, actually, theyoungvotefilm.com, where teachers will be able to go, and there'll be lesson plans there that they can use with the film once it's released to, help educate young people about.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, we're excited about that.
I could see that really going through, high school, college campuses, really picking up on that. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, there's a real lack of civics education right now in our country. There are quite a few states that actually don't require it. Florida is actually one of the only states that requires that middle school students actually have a year of civics. So it's what I'm hoping too is that the film spurs a dialogue about that amongst parents and educators about how to best teach civics in our schools and outside of our schools. Two of the young people in our film, actually, they got introduced to each other, the ones that are in Florida, through a program called Civics Unplugged, which is, something they do outside of school. And I think there are a lot of ways that young people right now can do things. But I also wanted to give a tool to the teachers themselves to be able to build on the film, once it's been released and, have it sort of complement their government's and their civics curriculum.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. So do you have a release date yet? I know you said you had the website that's been worked on, or.
Yeah. So we're just starting the festival circuit right now. Oh. We're waiting to hear back from a few festivals. We just got an award yesterday, actually.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you. Well, it's actually it's very encouraging, especially as a first-time filmmaker, to know that other people think the film is worthy. But we got recognized by the Impact Docs Awards. And we also received an award from a group called Black Voices for Black Justice. They're very focused on issues that are, impacting the African American community, and clearly voter suppression is one of them. But yeah, we're starting the festival circuit this spring, and we're going to be putting up festivals that we're participating in on the website. And we're hoping to have the film released. We're hoping to find a distributor actually by the summer, because we'd like to release the film fully before the midterms.
Oh yeah, that would be perfect.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
I know the website's not up yet, but are you on social media where you can follow your journey and stay up to date with everything going on with the film?
Yes, we're on Instagram. You can follow us at Yard Girl Productions. And that we're posting all of the information there on festivals. And also you can go to yardgirlproductions.com, which is the website. which will soon have a trailer, and we'll also have screening dates and festival dates.
Very cool. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to me, and congrats on this. I mean, it sounds like the film's going to make a huge impact in the world.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's my hope. And thanks for having me. I enjoyed this.